Hello, friends. Welcome back to Saturday Evenings Posted Mostly with me, your host, Trevor Stewart 1308, and we're here with the ASOC Prod Cat and the Peanut Gallery. The Peanut Gallery. Chaotic Techno Wizard. Yes, the Peanut Gallery Chaotic Techno Wizard. And Just Me Crystal in the chat. Hi, much love, Just Me Crystal. She's got a stream going on right now. We are doing episode 5 of our weekly constitutional today, and we will be watching a video by Legal Eagle about how the current administration is steamrolling. I came back in right in the middle of ads, right into ad. The current administration is steamrolling over the Constitution. But before that...
Gotta get those wrinkles out.
Yeah, gotta get those wrinkles out. Well, first, let's do this. Share our screen. There we go. Yes, there we go. Okay. That's all ready. Before we get started, pardon me, today's ad read, we are having breakfast with the Kush Gang, of course. Kush juice, and some of their Kush treats. And, of course, our pre-rolls today will be brought to you by The Hidden Leaf, downtown Charlottesville, Virginia, 105 West Main Street, above the Bricks, Suite 200, between the Green Cauldron and Hamilton's. A great place to go with some great buds to get some great buds, bud? And the only thing better than their bud is their customer service. And they do have the lowest prices in town, according to my own highly biased research, by which I mean I was incredibly high when I did my biased research. Check the website for times and events. The website is thehiddenleafseville.com. That's thehiddenleafseville, all one word, .com. And their Frosty Fridays event is where local purveyors such as the Kush Gang and Firehouse get to set up shop and sell their wares. And that Frosty Fridays is where I go to get my Kush treats and Kush juice. And of course, the Kush Gang, who is a great, just delightful people. I met some of their surrounding, people, and some of their, friends, family members, loved ones like that. And I thought, my first thought was if you be known by the company you keep, then it be known that they be good people, because the company they keep are good people. Yes, so that's how I feel about the Kush Gang. Good people, good food, good bud, a good time. we go. Got our Kush juice mixed up with our drip. Give it a little shake. And these are peanut butter something kicks, I think. Or maybe it's just regular kicks. Oh, no, it's cinnamon sugar kicks.
Cinnamon sugar kicks.
And let me tell you, this is the only way to eat breakfast cereal. That is delicious. That is so good. Delicious. Well, I'm gonna keep eating as we watch stuff. Before we get going, there's something I wanted to talk about. Weed the people. Yeah, nice. I like that. I forgot about that. So there have been a couple of lockdowns of UVA campus recently, yeah?
Yep.
And are you guys aware of what it's been about?
Yep.
Likewise, one of them was a pair of likewise middle-aged farts and got stabbed. The other one, I have no idea.
The earlier one involved someone that was running from police, or someone that was trying to get pulled over by the police, ran, eventually parked in a neighborhood very close to the UVA campus, got out, and was on foot, and they have not seen him. They just know that the dude is supposedly not in the area.
Also, it needs to be pointed out that when he exited the vehicle was still moving.
Yep.
It ran into another vehicle. I don't think anybody was hurt.
Not in that incident, no.
There was... Now, this guy has gang affiliations. The guy who ran. And the response at UVA around there was very loud. They were sending out all sorts of alerts. They were calling in all kinds of people. And they, this was seemed to be a pretty big deal. I knew about it pretty instantly. Now, the other one, the next incidents of closing the campus, I don't believe that there was a whole lot of response now, was there? There weren't a lot of alarming text messages sent out. There wasn't a lot of alerts, from what I hear.
I don't know about that. I know that I got the same number of alerts for each one.
Really?
The only alert that I didn't get for the second instance that I got for the first one was because I happened to be chatting with someone whose partner worked at UVA, and they were getting their own messages, so I didn't have that happening as well. But I got the same number of messages. Hey, we're going in lockdown. We're doing this and we're doing that. Which I got.
I got number alerts for both of them. 0.
I'm set up for alerts in some very strange places, dear. But I got the exact same number of alerts through Charlottesville City Police, through Albemarle County Police, and through UVA Police. So
okay. My word on the street report, word from the street report, people were telling me that it was a disproportionately large response for the first one and a very small response for the second one. The lockdown on the first one. Well, I mean, I'm taking the word of my people on the street for it. You know.
Like I said.
So I'm not saying that I have firsthand knowledge, you know. I do want to point out that I think that it's telling that the response for a nonviolent offense, you know, for a situation that didn't have to be a big deal, really, and the response for a very large deal. We haven't really talked about what went on the second one. There was a serial stabber. A mass lacerator. Huh?
I said protect your Captain Crunch.
Right. A mass lacerator. And, of course, those of you who know me know that I am that friend who is too woke. And you know that I'm about to point out the difference between the two cases. The one difference, the one big difference, other than what specifically the suspect was doing, was the color of the suspect's skin. The first guy, the guy who didn't hurt anyone, but was put in a situation where he made a decision to endanger lives, and or at least endanger well-being and property. He was met with the same, if not greater, response as to a white person, a white man wielding a knife, literally cutting and hurting people.
Question, though.
Yeah.
Was there an active pursuit? I mean, were they actively pursuing the serial stabber when he entered campus?
No.
Or was all this in response to the actual incident?
I don't know for sure. I can't answer that for sure, but I don't think anybody pursued the knife-wielding maniac onto campus. I believe the knife-wielding maniac thing started on campus. The knife came out, the maniac came out, they were on campus. I also don't know, but I thought I heard you say earlier that they had pursued the other guy onto campus. That it was in
Honest, it was
pursuit.
actually into the campus. It was at least into the one of the housing areas right next to campus. I'm kind of my geography on various addresses is what is UVA and what isn't is kind of off. But if they didn't pursue him onto campus, they pursued him into like one of the housing blocks right next to the campus, and then lost him.
You know, I'm trying not to be like, yeah, you go, brother, run, get away from them cops. I am so ACAB that like I'm trying not. I have to actively try hard not to side with the gang member running away. Like, I have no idea who he is.
I appreciate that. That's one of the ways that we do severely differ.
Yeah. I thought you were going to expand on that, so I took a bite. Would you expand on that?
I showing my middle class white privilege here and to give the officers in uniform the benefit of the doubt. Now, there are, to put it very generously, more than a few cases that this does not bear out. But I still attempt to give them the benefit of the doubt because of what they are supposedly there for, attempting to protect. It is a belief that I still carry.
They are there to protect. They're there to protect private property. They're there to protect property in general. That's their job.
Okay, so in that instance, you have a person that was hurting people, and you have a person that was injuring property.
Right. And see how they behaved? It's there is of course there's a lot of differences in the way that you and I were raised. Techno wizard. Chaotic. CTW.
Nut gallery.
Nut gallery. NG. PNG. Yeah, there's there is a very large difference in the way we were raised, though. I was raised to be be very suspicious of all police. You know, I was raised on the Yellow Submarine, so one of my first words for police was blue meanie. I was brought up to see the police as bullies and dangerous if you don't look like you are normal. I was taught to code switch, to pass for normal, those kinds of things, so that the cops wouldn't harass me. More to the point, so the cops wouldn't harass my parents. I was given the talk about how when you get approached by a cop, you call them sir and officer. You raise your hand slowly, fingers spread wide apart so they can see you don't have anything. You don't make any sudden movements or threatening gestures at all. I was given the talk about how not to get shot by a cop. So yeah, we do have you and I have very different perspectives on the police. I was never taught that they were there to serve and protect me. I was taught that they were there to serve and protect other people from me. Which is kind of a hard thing to wrap your brain around when you're a kid and you're going, but I'm not a threat.
I was taught they were here to serve and protect everybody, whether it's protecting the person themselves or protecting them from another person, including myself.
Yeah, no. I was.
So I could be perceived as the threat, but I was to try not to be perceived as the threat.
Mm-hmm. I was raised to believe that the police were there to oppress me. The whole no snitching movement fits right in with what I learned. If something's going wrong, don't go to the cops. They'll only make it worse. And I do say all of this. I have met a few good cops here and there. I have met a handful of cops who really are there to serve and protect and care about the people that they take care of. All of the people that they take care of. However, it is not the majority of police, in my experience. And it really is, I do think it's a difference of perspective of how both of our past interactions with police have gone, and how, the society in which we were raised. I was raised in a society that was highly suspect by authorities. It was very anti-authoritarian. One of the first mottos I was taught was question authority. And it occurs to me, if you want a child that does what you want them to do, don't teach them to question your authority. Don't make that part of their lesson plan. If you want a child that's a free thinker, sure, go right ahead.
You say that was one of the first mottos you were taught? One of the first mottos I was taught was, would you like to be my neighbor?
Aww. We didn't have much Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I think I saw that maybe 1 or 2 times as a kid. Fraggle Rock and Sesame Street were both pretty big for us. We were very Jim Henson. We were a very Jim Henson place.
But all three of those go together for me.
Not so much for us. Especially because anything like any TV, even PBS, had to be gone off the farm to get. You had to go out to get it. You had to rent the tapes to watch it. We couldn't just receive it. Even though Sesame Street was very much the sort of the values that they wanted to teach us. And same with Fraggle Rock. It still wasn't, we weren't allowed to have an antenna to pick it up. And I will say, I watched The Muppet Show as a child more often than Sesame Street.
Yeah, because the adults were more interested in watching the Muppet Show, so that was more likely to show up on the rental.
Also, Aunt Maddie was on the Muppet Show. She had an appearance on the Muppet Show, so that was always a big draw. That one time she was on the Muppet Show, all of the hippies were like, "Whoa!"
I do have to say there's probably a more cynical reason why Mr. Rogers was not often viewed.
On the farm, you think?
Oh, yes.
What do you think that more cynical reason was? He was the
many times that he spoke positively of authority, and when he spoke negatively, he talked about working within the system to change it.
Yeah, that may have been a little... they may have not been wild about that. I could see that. There was a bit of... I don't know if there was a bit of not being sure about him either, because he was a former Marine. I
don't think that ever actually panned out to be true.
Oh, that you don't think he wasn't a former Marine sniper or something? That's neat.
No, there are many rumors about his military career, but I seem to remember hearing them debunked. Do the wiki.
Hey, that's cool.
He never served in the military.
Okay.
He registered for the draft, but he was deemed unfit when they called him up.
Okay.
So he never served.
Okay. So yeah, it might have been their portrayal of police officers that may have gotten the hippies turned off to him. And Henson certainly did not have that same respect for authority. You know, even in Sesame Street, they weren't, they didn't really portray cops as being super important or super, superhero-ish.
How often did they ever even portray cops on Sesame Street?
I remember one sketch where they portrayed it was supposed to be a takeoff on Miami Vice. And they were teaching us the Spanish word for closed, cerrado. And the cops had gotten called out to this shop because this woman couldn't get into this shop, and she didn't know that cerrado meant closed, and the cops went on a learning journey to find out that that's what that meant. They weren't portrayed as particularly bright, but the whole thing had a relatively positive vibe to it.
That was definitely early Sesame Street. Later Sesame Street, they've definitely done more with community helpers, in which they show the whole range of community helpers. So firefighters, nurses, all of that, and they have had cops in there as a community helper, but they really haven't done. They've done more positive stuff recently than they have in the past, but it hasn't been as much as they've done portraying, say, reading or teachers as essential to life versus other things.
Let's be honest, almost anybody that they ever portrayed as a guest character as a Muppet was never exactly someone to be taken as an intelligent person.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Whether they were positive or negative, they were never, the Muppet versions were almost never considered the intelligent ones.
Yeah.
No.
They were never to be taken seriously.
Nope.
In any case, yeah, it's you see where I'm coming from though on that. Well, actually, maybe you don't. But
I see that there was a disproportionate response. My question in response to that was, what was the initiating factor and what level of alert were they on at or because of the initiating factor?
The initiating factor for the first one was a expired
chase.
No, the thing that got the chase started. was an expired expired tags, I think, on the car. And then that's when the cops figured out, like, they did that. They tried to pull the guy over. He didn't stop. I think he didn't stop. They figured out who it was and were like, "Oh no, we've got to get him," and started calling out all kinds of help to do that. I don't know what the initiating factors on the knife wielding maniac are.
Alright, so
Speaking of ironing kinks out of the Constitution,
Right?
oh, the vehicle that the first guy hit was a police vehicle.
Oh.
So
Well-
the guy was stopped on the guy was stopped, or was tried to be stopped, and then ran. And he ran into the UVA area. He did run into the university complex. So that was that one. Let's see. Let's see. That's the senior alert, because I've had like 17 different senior alerts.
I think, in a broader way, I want to ask Peanut Gallery if you can see that why my point of view as being afraid of cops exists for people like me. You know, can you see how we have the perspective that we have on our side? I can very easily see how you have your perspective, and I can understand that perspective pretty well, because it would be really awesome if I could live in that space. I have thought often about how nice it would be.
look, if a community has had a series of bad interactions with authority figures where they were not the instigators or did not perceive themselves to be the instigators, I understand why they would not have a positive opinion of the police.
Okay. Thank you.
I
Yes.
am not intending to say that your viewpoint is anywhere close to not being valid. It is entirely valid. I'm attempting to explain my viewpoint.
Okay. And your viewpoint is valid. I do not invalidate your viewpoint. It is a very valid viewpoint from the perspective of which it's coming. You know, the police very much are there to serve and protect people like you. I don't mean that to sound as something as it sounded. But it is like, that is the design of the system. The system
It was not intended to be the backhanded compliment that it sounded like.
Yeah, it was not. It was not intended to be.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. I know you as a person. I know the person behind the Chaotic Techno Wizard and the Peanut Gallery, and that person is a very good person and deserves being served and protected by the institutions that serve and protect. So, that in that way, they are good that they're doing that for people like you, for you. However, there are not systems in place to serve and protect people like me. And also people who are further out along the gradient of citizenship, if you will, class of citizenship.
This is where, sorry.
This is
You're
where I was saying, I'm sort of on the inner ring closest. I'm on the ring closest to acceptable by society in a lot of ways, even though I'm not acceptable by society's standards because I'm radically opinionated. I'm all kinds of queer. And I am religiously... I am outside the religious boundaries of acceptable religions to society. I don't believe in the standard set of religions. So I'm not...
This is where I differentiate myself from a number of quote-unquote moderates and many conservatives.
Yes.
I believe that the protections I enjoy are to be extended to everyone.
Yes.
And further on, just because someone may look different, I was taught very early on, maybe not intentionally, and maybe not, oh, come on. Maybe not being aware of it.
Consciously.
Normal is the weird.
It is. Normal is the weird.
People try to protect normal, say normal is the good thing. Normal is the veneer that people carry over themselves to hide themselves from others. And unfortunately, in that way, I am very normal.
I don't carry that mask. I do not bother to wear that mask. It is too heavy and too ill-fitting for me. But because I don't wear that mask, I am constantly fighting against the tides of society, including the justice system and their immediate active arm, law enforcement. Law enforcement really is there to reinforce normal. It's there to make sure everybody keeps their masks up and doesn't break anything. They're there to keep the structures in place. They're there to reinforce the status quo. Which means serving and protecting the majority of the people. Or at least the majority. The stated majority. the people who
or the
hold
largest minority?
well, the people who hold the most power, the majority of the power, the majority of the money. That's what they're there to protect, serve and protect. Not necessarily the majority of bodies.
I agree and disagree. They are there to protect normal. My belief on this is they are there to protect a slim line of normal. That being, it is normal not to actively go out and cause harm to other people, whether that be physical, mental, or emotional. They are there to protect that normalcy. It's
Except,
normal to not actively cause harm to people's property.
except, do the cops actually stop crimes? Or do they just punish people afterwards? Are they even a preventative measure or are they a punitive measure?
The problem is, if you go into trying to be a purely preventative measure, it's either going to be active government terrorism,
Right?
so that you are too terrified to do anything that is outside a very narrow definition of normal,
Right.
so therefore you're not causing any problems, or they're actively looking for people who might cause problems. It is better that they are a reactive measure and a deterrent force, but not an active deterrent. They should be a passive deterrent and an active punitive measure. Because without the threat of an active punitive measure, some people do not feel that they need to worry about anything.
That's fair.
Just like
That is
certain people think they can get away with anything, they try to do anything, like removing the Constitution from their website.
right. Way to bring it back around. I'll bite on the segue this time. I feel like you did a good job of getting us there. Everybody give Chaotic Techno Wizard, aka the Peanut Gallery, a big round of applause. That was a very good segue. That was well done. So, let us start this video. If we can.
That's the big thing. If we can.
If we can. Okay, first off, do that. Do that. All of that looks right. Okay. All right.
Software's accounting and payroll? We're not hard to find. Just go to Patriot.
Orders from his first day in office. Everyone is breathlessly reporting on President Trump's flurry of executive orders from
Can you guys hear it? Everybody hear okay?
Yes.
Right on.
Yep.
his first day in office. Birthright citizenship, trans rights, TikTok, you name it. But few sources are digging into whether Trump can actually do any of the things that he's trying to do by executive order. So I guess we're gonna do it. Now, executive orders are official documents through which the President of the United States manages the operations of the federal government. The Constitution does not directly address executive orders, and no federal statute explicitly authorizes them. However, they are accepted as part of a president's inherent powers regarding the executive branch. A president can issue executive orders to direct the executive branch, enforce existing laws, or manage national emergencies, provided the president acts within their constitutional or statutory authority. Executive orders do not need congressional approval and cannot be directly overturned by lawmakers. But an executive order cannot contradict congressionally passed laws or contradict the Constitution. Executive orders have become more common over time, in part because congressional gridlock has made passing laws more difficult. Traditionally, the party that is not in the White House complains about the abuse of executive orders, and then once they get into the White House, they do even more via executive order than the previous administration. But actions taken pursuant to these orders are subject to judicial oversight, and you can bet that many of Trump's orders will be contested in court, just like they were during his first term. So let's dig into these executive orders. In one, Trump declared a national emergency on the US-Mexico border. In another order, Trump declared, quote, the current situation at the southern border qualifies as an invasion. The order suspends, quote, the physical entry of aliens involved in an invasion into the United States across the southern border until I determine that the invasion has concluded. Now, can the president do this? Well, the Immigration and Nationality Act outlines the legal framework for individuals who seek protection in the US because they fear persecution in their home country. And the president might not be permitted to suspend physical entry of asylum seekers into the United States, and he may not be authorized to stop asylum seekers who are already in the United States from getting a hearing. Section 212F of the INA allows the president to restrict or suspend entry of non-citizens or groups of non-citizens into the United States if their entry is determined to be detrimental to the interests of the United States. Trump has dubiously asserted that immigrants are passing through countries with communicable diseases, and that one reason they are detrimental is to the health and national security of Americans, but this determination might have exceeded his authority. To deal with this alleged invasion, Trump asked the Secretary of State to designate specific international groups, including Tren de Aragua and MS-13, as foreign terrorist organizations. It says, quote, within 14 days of the date of this order, the Secretary of State shall take all appropriate action in consultation with the Secretary of the Treasury, the Attorney General, and the Secretary of Homeland Security and the Director of National Intelligence to make a recommendation regarding the designation of any cartel. Can he do that? Probably. The authority to designate a group as a foreign terrorist organization is delegated to the Secretary of State by the Anti-Terrorism and Effective Death Penalty Act of 1996. So the president may direct the Secretary of State to review certain groups for potential designation, but the formal authority lies with the Secretary. Trump also announced plans to invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to take action against these groups, but that act only applies to people who are nationals of countries the U.S. is at war with or where there is a declared hostility. Trump ordered the government to halt the admission of refugees and cites situations in places like Springfield, Ohio, and Charleroi, Wisconsin, where large numbers of refugees settled. You might recall some of the complete fabricated lies about immigrants eating pets. Trump says his authority to suspend the U.S. refugee admissions program stems from his Section 212F powers. But Trump ordered the Secretary of State and others to designate cartels and gangs as foreign terrorist organizations. And he ostensibly gave the military more power to, quote, protect the territorial integrity of the United States and seal the borders. Trump directed the Attorney General to seek the death penalty for capital crimes committed by immigrants without legal status. And in another order, Trump rescinded former President Biden's administrative executive orders and ordered the Attorney General and the Secretary of Homeland Security to, quote, evaluate and undertake any lawful actions to ensure that so-called sanctuary jurisdictions are ineffective. He also ordered the director of OMB to deny public benefits to illegal aliens who are not eligible for it. And the president is certainly within his authority to rescind former President Biden's orders and take lawful actions to limit the authority of sanctuary cities and states within the law. Trump also signed an order resuming building of the wall, suspending the CNHV parole program, which enabled Haitians, Venezuelans, Cubans, and Nicaraguans to settle temporarily in the United States. And the government must also stop allowing non-citizens in Mexico to make appointments to present asylum claims. Some of these
Okay. So, to me, it sounds like he is building up to an argument about he's building up to the structure of an argument about how Trump either is or isn't exceeding his powers.
Eventually, he reaches the argument of but it is something that each one of these things Congress is going to have to take a vote on.
Right. To me, it also feels like, and the way he may be doing this on purpose, he may not, but the way he's presenting this is a build-up of it's all of these first little steps to get something larger done. It feels like this is a bunch of preambulatory measures for a larger and honestly more horrific thing.
Well, but we already knew that is coming. We went through and read the playbook for the larger stuff.
We have. And this brings me to something that I see Trump doing. Something I heard on NPR yesterday evening, I believe. It was a statement about how the USAID, the office of the USAID, being dismantled.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Was a blueprint on how to for Doge on how to dismantle federal agencies.
Which, depending on the
you
federal
know,
agencies, they maybe can do and they maybe can't do, because if it's
Right.
something that Congress wrote into existence, Congress has to write it out of existence.
Right. But they're, this is where this is their sort of test run. And they felt like it would be a good test run because very few people, it doesn't, the effect USAID has on the average American's life goes relatively unseen. It's not like dismantling some internal structure where we're gonna almost immediately see it.
Like the Park Service?
Yeah. Dismantling USAID, their big thing is foreign soft power. That's what they provide. And we as citizens don't really see foreign soft power being enacted. In fact, for us to really understand foreign soft power in action, we have to know that it's the things that aren't happening. If our foreign soft power were stronger, we wouldn't be having the problem. Well, no, we'd be having all of the problems with foreign policy we're having now because Trump's foreign policy is a disaster.
You're talking about someone that sat there. This is a man that sat there as a businessman, said that he was going to start pulling U.S. interests back and making sure that U.S. businesses weren't owning other pieces of countries because everything needs to be here. It's like, this is a man that has got however many resorts that he owns around the world, and if he actually did that, he would lose all of them.
Right? Now, this brings up, oh God, I was going to try and wait until after the video to talk about this. I heard snippets. I heard snippets last night of Trump's meeting with Zelensky.
Where Zelensky left and didn't sign a bloody thing.
And Trump yelled at him. Oh, it was, and so did.
The adage
Oh my God, that was just. It was
the adage is supposed to be walk softly and carry a big stick. Not sit on top of your desk because you're too short to see over it and scream like a banshee.
right, and and Vance. Vance took a couple of shots too, and it's like, what the?
That's not. This is
This
Telling
not.
isn't.
Zelensky to be more respectful of Putin.
Yeah, and more respectful of
I really don't.
us. Like,
I don't care who he's respectful of. At its very very base core, he was a guest.
yeah,
You screwed over your guest by screaming at him and calling him names.
and publicly, you did it publicly. This is not. This is not presidential behavior.
All right, it's not polite behavior. Period.
No,
But
no.
above polite behavior, you've got general polite behavior, and then you've got what is supposed to be expected of your highest person. You expect to visit the prime minister in Canada, the prime minister in England, whoever, whatever, wherever, whoever the highest person is. You expect there to be politeness and decorum because that is how you do diplomacy.
Right,
You kill them with kindness.
right.
And this was just no. It was just no. This is not how we treat guests.
It was
period.
shameful. It was shameful.
Yes.
I am ashamed of what happened. I am ashamed of how he behaved. He's not even my president. Not my president. And I'm ashamed of how he behaved.
Well, don't start that stuff.
Huh? What'd you
Please
say?
don't start that stuff.
Oh.
I said, please don't start that stuff. The not my president
No,
crap.
no.
Because
No.
that's what his people have been spewing forever.
That's kind of why I shout it back at them. But no,
Yeah.
you're right. It is, it's not a good look to be not my president. Like, that's,
No.
Yes, he is.
I
This
know,
is-
right? But he wasn't my choice, is what I'm saying.
No.
Like, he is lumbered upon me. He is not my choice, and I don't appreciate it.
Question.
I don't like being ashamed of my nation in the international eye, and
Yeah.
having to be like, having to own that, like, yeah, yep, we did it to ourselves. Like, don't lump me in with those guys. Do not lump me in with
Yeah.
that. I did not choose this. I do not want this. This is not consensual.
All right. Question. Do you remember from the last video they went over the duties of president, they went over some of the behavior things.
Right. Presidential behavior. Right.
I know
it's
that
an impeachable offense.
I think I don't know if that's actually an impeachable offense, but I remember there being a portion about meeting with other dignitaries and how that was expected to go.
I do vaguely remember that.
And it was a case of basically when you're representing the office as the office, these are the things you're supposed to be doing. And all of the other things, it doesn't matter. That's you as a person who cares. Which is why the thing with Clinton, and it wasn't a case of the affair, because they don't care about that in the
Right.
Constitution, but the lying. The lying was what did it.
Right.
Very
Unpresidential
much in the same
behavior.
vein as Nixon. It's not the crime, it's the cover up that's the problem.
Right.
Yes. Because it wasn't actually a crime until that point.
Exactly.
Well, are we looking at, in that case, are we looking at something where his behavior. I mean, we know he lies about stuff all the time, but apparently we just don't care enough about that.
Or we haven't caught it enough.
So is it a case
If you're
of.
saying if
Also, I mean, he
if you're
did.
asking if his behavior is impeachable, that happens every time he opens his mouth.
Right, exactly. Like, at what point are we just not holding up that end of the deal? Of course,
At the same point
it's.
that people like MPG stay in Congress.
Right. Right. That's exactly what it is. It's that the people with the power to do something aren't going to. Because, because either, and I'm saying this is more of an either or than an and, they are receiving some sort of benefit from it, or B, they are afraid. They are in
Well,
literal fear for their life and or well-being. You know, it's not like they, it's not like the Republican Party, the Republican Party, as we knew it, didn't employ threats of violence. But the Trump Party does. The grassroots ground, the ground level people of that party, in a very unorganized way, will go after somebody they perceive as going against Trump. They are more likely to do it when that person is Republican. That's part of why the three of us are relatively safe to be saying what we're saying. They're not going to come after us. We're on the left of things. Even if you both see yourselves as centrists or moderates or whatever, because the Overton window is shifted so far to the right, you're leftists. They're not going to look at you as betraying the cause. You're not an apostate. So the hate for you is not nearly as strong as the hate for one of their own that turns apostate, that disobeys, that steps out of line. We're safe because we're already on the other side of things. And safe is a relative term. We're only safe insofar as they haven't got to us yet.
Well, I'm all right. On that note, because I'm doing my usual crocheting and coloring and looking up articles while we're doing this.
You are truly a multi-talented multiplicity of.
I need to fidget or I can't maintain.
I get that. I get that. Which is part of
I
why when
need
I
to.
have a good, quick fidget project, I send it to you.
Hey, it was done. The main body of that fidget project was done pretty quick.
It was. It was
Right. So
General
I will drop
Dan
the link.
Raisin Kane. That just
I will drop a
raisin.
link to this article in the chat in a minute.
Okay.
But
Uh,
it is from the Guardian from 2 days ago,
okay.
and it's from California Representative Eric Swalwell, who is quoted as saying that his Republican colleagues are terrified of crossing Trump, not only because of the negative impact on political careers, but also from anxiety that it might provoke physical threats that could cause personal upheaval and require them to hire round-the-clock security.
Just
So yeah,
saying. And it's been that way since 2016. It's been that way
he's quoted.
this
It
entire
has. It
time.
has. Because if it hadn't, then he would have been impeached, and it would have carried the first two times.
Right.
But it was the because he was brought up on charges twice, and then the final vote to actually ratify it and make it true never went through.
Right.
Anyway,
Because
Swalwell is
people
quoted
were
as
afraid.
saying, "Yep, I have a lot of friends who are Republicans. They're terrified of being the tallest poppy in the field, and it's not as simple as being afraid of being reprimanded and losing their job. They know that can happen. It's more personal. It's their personal safety that they're afraid of and for, and their spouses and family members."
I'm just saying. Like,
Well,
and so I understand why these Republicans aren't crossing him. I understand what's
yeah.
going on and why they can't say, you know. So it is. Yeah. He has
Mm-hmm.
strong armed the party into being that, into being his party.
Yes.
And that's where we're at with this. Like, so it doesn't matter what policies or you know, there's gonna be no in party opposition to him.
Mm-mm.
It's just we're next.
Yeah. Yeah.
Baby Trump poo 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 poo. Baby Trump poo 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 poo. That was funny, Peanut Gallery. I am laughing on the inside. I'm laughing very hard on the inside. I can't believe I did that out loud, though.
Congratulations.
Now someone's wishing to kill both of us.
I know. Baby Trump poo 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 poo. Baby Trump poo 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 poo.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, have either of you caught the Baby Shark remix, my live mix, Baby Shark?
No.
I love you, but it's Baby Shark, so therefore no.
No. It's I've done an industrial and I've done a hardcore, like Gabber
Mm.
style. Yeah, and so not only do I have Baby Shark to work with, I grabbed their EDM version of Baby Shark, but I've also got the Jaws theme song, and I've got oh gosh, now I can't remember
So
the
here's a version
artist's
for you.
name. You already gave me.
Lawyer up, do 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 do. Lawyer up,
You're
do
up
do
to
do do.
do. Yeah. You got caught do 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 do. You got caught do 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 do
Yeah, missed where I was going with that one. Play the vid.
do 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 do.
Ooh.
New restrictions are probably within the president's powers, but it's hard to say how each of these will play out.
We know that finding high-quality foods you can trust can be challenging. That's why Go Macro is making
The language in the executive order is not specific enough to tell us exactly what Trump will do and how he will do it, and it's likely that he will continue to sign new orders in this area, which will give us more clarity on what he can and cannot do. And the ACLU has already filed suit over the refugee policies. And as predicted, Trump has attacked birthright citizenship. As Liz Dye explained in our previous video, birthright citizenship is a cornerstone of constitutional law and has been reaffirmed in legal decisions for 150 years. Trump's order ostensibly declares that a child born in the United States is not a citizen if, at the time of birth, their mother is either unlawfully present in the United States or their mother's presence in the United States was lawful but temporary, and their father was not a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident. It applies to children born after 30 days from the date of the order, and the order is broader than expected, ostensibly covering children of undocumented immigrants. And
I kind of understand mechanically why there's a difference between the father and the mother in this way, but and I think I get it, like, sociopolitically, but politically it just seems really strange, other than it's continuing to associate women and women's roles.
And it's also going with if the male is not a citizen, that means they're not a landowner.
Right.
So therefore, if they're not a landowner, they have no right to pass citizenship off to their child. It's not just it smacks of a whole lot the way that was phrased.
It really does. There's a lot going on there that is uncomfortable. More than uncomfortable.
So what if the father was a Chinese corporation that owns land in America?
Sorry, say that again?
What if the father was a Chinese corporation that owns land in America?
Right, because
question.
corporations are people too. Hashtag corporate lives matter.
No, they don't.
Yeah. I really, the few rare times I use that word now that I can't remember. Sarcasm.
Yes.
I do believe it gets lost on people.
Sarcasm has gotten lost on a lot of people that have said, "Oh, that sounds like a great idea. Let's do that."
Right.
No, that was sarcasm, not a how-to manual.
Right.
and also those born to foreign nationals who are legally in the country on visas. Now, the interpretation of the 14th Amendment on which this executive order relies is not reflected in current law or legal precedent, and therefore it's very likely the courts will strike it down. As we've covered in other videos, the 14th Amendment says that birthright citizenship applies unless you are not bound by the laws of the United States. And I think even the Trump administration wants immigrants and tourists to be bound by the laws of the United States when they are in this country. Or he just created a purge. I don't know. Maybe that's what he wants too. And lawyers are not going to give up on bedrock constitutional rights without a fight, and the ACLU and at least 18 states have filed lawsuits to enjoin this order. Then there's TikTok. We've finally seen the TikTok...
What? Someone. Oh, I remember. I was in Bexy's stream earlier, and they were like, yeah, he's just turned it into the Purge. I saw that movie the other night, and it's the Purge. That was Australian, not British. I'm sorry, Bex. That was... Sorry, Bexy. That was terrible.
I've talked to...
accent. But yeah.
No,
foreigners
no.
are looking at what's going on. Yeah, right? Foreigners are looking at what's going on over here going, oh God. They're just gonna... How are they just not killing each other yet?
This is how we get the Hunger Games.
I mean, we're working our way to it.
I don't know. I think I'd prefer the Purge. It's more intelligent.
I think
Honestly, I think the Purge was the first step, and Hunger Games was the last step.
I'm not sure which one I stand a better chance in. I mean, other than Hunger Game only happens to kids, so I'm pretty safe, because I haven't been a kid in a long time. Purge...
Not an adult. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right? I need an adult. You are an adult. I need an adult here, adult.
I love and hate you both.
I'm not gonna go out actively purging. Like, that's not me, you know?
No.
But even though there are people that it's like, oh, I could definitely see a world without that person. I'm not gonna go out and actively purge. But I feel like there's something in my personality that has made a lot of enemies over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And not people that I mind being my enemy. I don't mind them not liking me because they're probably not good people. Which means that they are the kind of person to go out and actively purge.
Yep.
Which puts me at least on people's lists, if not at or near the top of people's lists. So, I don't know. I'm not sure I like the purge idea. Like,
Never said it was a good idea. I never said it was an intelligent idea. I just said it was more intelligent than the Hunger Games.
that's true.
I mean, yeah.
Whereas Hunger Games, because it's randomly chosen,
Mm-hmm.
the likelihood
Yeah.
of me getting chosen and put on one of those things probably pretty high, no matter what age I am. We're assuming that it's we're gonna expand age there to be everybody, all the poor people, just because, to make it an even comparison. I still think my chances are better of not having to fight a whole bunch of multiple attackers all at once in a Hunger Games style scenario than in a Purge style scenario. I think the likelihood of me having to face all of my nemeses all at once is way higher in a Purge scenario.
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's just
I'm laughing because
supposition.
whoever tunes in right now is going to be like, why?
What? How did you get there? I'm just
Carefully.
saying,
Very
though.
carefully.
Very carefully. I don't know.
No, we got
Peanut
if we weren't
Gallery,
very careful.
Peanut Gallery, what do you think? For you, in your. I think that you would be relatively safe in a purge style thing. I don't think anybody wants to go after you. Like, I don't think you have enemies. You don't strike me as the type of person to make enemies. There isn't something about you that I could see people just disliking on principle. Like, you seem like a likable person. Do you think that
I
you would
have
survive?
actively received death threats loudly in public.
Wow. I mean, I have too, but it's to be expected. Wow. I'm curious. How did this happen? Paint us a picture. Tell us a story.
Or as much of a story as you can.
Okay, wait. Was it because you were working at a specific water authority?
Huh?
Didn't you work for the Albemarle water people for a while?
Nope.
Oh. Or it's one of those one of those municipal or county water. No?
Nope.
Okay. Then how did you get death threats? In person, I'm
Because I
guessing.
was
If
attempting to follow a rule despite what the other person wanted.
were you wearing a mask?
No.
He was singing a baby shark variation?
Yeah, just now that would be one reason that he might have to worry about the purge. He understood me.
I would like to tell you more, but I will not in a public situation.
Okay. I respect that. I respect that. It is, wow.
Mm-hmm.
There have been many times when I have been following what I am supposed to do, or even attempting to help someone. And it was not exactly what they wanted. So they have become loud, vocal, very agitated. And when I did not budge any further, they just got louder and more agitated.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Well, okay. Okay, though. No, I take your point. I do know this about you. You can be stubborn. And that can piss people off. And that could get you targeted in a purge. I take your point. Just because I find you to be a very likable guy doesn't mean that everybody else does.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I'd like to point out, because the viewers don't know you. You know, I'm not going to say I know you well, but I know a bit of your background, and I know a bit of, and I know what you look like. I certainly, in a Hunger Games situation, I certainly wouldn't want to be on an opposing team from you. You look like you know how to survive in the wild, and you might even know how to cut open a tauntaun and sleep inside of it in the snow. And I thought it smelled bad on the outside.
That was very well done.
Thank you. You do look like a survivor. I mean, you do have that air of, well, if the crap hits the air conditioning, I've got my world. I can take care of me. That being said, I also wouldn't want to run into you in a purge situation because you look like you could. Well, again, not very tall. You look like you could purge the heck out of someone. You do. You look like in that vest you wear somewhere, there's a couple of little devices that are built just for purging people.
No, I have very few devices that are built just for purging people. I have very many devices that can function in that way, though.
Exactly. That exactly. I'm just saying, you look like you might have made Eagle Scout. I would think you could have made Eagle Scout.
No.
What? Did you?
Heck no. No. My scout troop was very surprised when they realized that I made it past the second rank.
Wow. Wow, man.
Because there's a certain social aspect to scouting that I was not very good at.
Oh, well, yeah. I guess most of the scout troops that I've interacted with in this area, most of them are a lot like you and our erstwhile DM. And you know, there's a lot of the scout troops around here are socially awkward people. Or at least a lot of the ones that I had interaction with. So I could have seen you making Eagle Scout in one of the local troops.
One, I lacked motivation.
Motivation, I get that.
Two, I was not popular enough inside my scouting troop to be allowed to play D&D.
Whoa! Whoa!
The popular ones played D&D in the scouting troop.
Whoa!
I was the chubby kid that they hung up by the underwear. Literally.
Oh, see, yeah, no, you'd have been in the local D&D group. Also, our erstwhile DM wouldn't have allowed lack of motivation. He 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 would have been I and maybe, maybe you wouldn't have stuck with it, but you'd have definitely been in the D&D group. Oh man, yeah. You and I, we would have played D&D together back then. Kat, you said of the three of us together visually, someone might very well worry about Peanut Gallery, kind of worry about me, and most likely ignore you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think the worrying about the who would be afraid and why goes back and forth between Peanut Gallery and I. Certain people would be afraid of Peanut Gallery, other people would be afraid of me.
Mm-hmm.
You
And
know?
and the largest threat is the one they would ignore.
Right?
One of my favorite memories bartending is having a conversation with one of the newer bouncers that was not doing their job adequately. And to prove my point, I got him to pat me down the way he was supposed to, and he found one object that I wasn't supposed to have. And then I proceeded to display the 7 other objects I wasn't supposed to have that he missed.
Oh, wow.
And they weren't in zones that you would not typically touch. They weren't in private areas. They weren't in any place that you. It was like, dude, you really need to do a better job.
Wow. That is disturbing.
Yeah, well, he was kind of disturbed too.
No, I mean it's disturbing that he was that bad at his job.
He was new. He was new, and he was trying really, really hard to be very respectful of everybody that came in that was presenting as a female, so that they wouldn't be uncomfortable. It's like, I get that. That's great, but among other things, you have to actually ask them to open their purse and look inside for this stuff.
Right.
And I wasn't even holding a purse when he checked me. I was like, this is all stuff that was just in my pockets.
Right.
Except for one item that was actually a necklace, but it was really visible what it was, and he totally missed that it was actually real.
Dang.
Nice guy. He got a lot better after that, but it's like,
No, I mean, I get it though. I very consciously only wear the 2 blades that I wear openly when I go out. I have stopped carrying concealed weapons. But it took a conscious effort of will. I'm I still have no, I'm careful. These days I don't even need to hide my weed. I can go out. I can go out with my wallet and my keys in my pockets
Mm-hmm.
You know, my weed in my bag, put my weed in the back seat, and go on about my driving business and not worry. You know, not feel like I have to hide anything because I'm not, the cops aren't gonna just stop and pat me down and take my weed away which makes it even more imperative that I not have concealed weapons now.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of,
Yeah.
I almost have to be more legal now because I'll be under more scrutiny
Mm-hmm.
because I am freshly in the allowed in society.
Right.
So while I can have my weed and even have my weed not exactly out in public or in public spaces, but I have places outside of my home that I can have it, such
Right.
as the Hidden Leaf, a wonderful, a wonderful hash bar where I can sit and smoke and hang out, a delightful third place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now that I have that, there is a lot of it's respectability politics, and I hate respectability politics, but I can have my brownies and eat them too. Exactly. There's respectability politics at play. And I hate respectability politics, but I'm playing into it. I'm acting respectable by breaking even less laws now, by being careful to be more legal. I think, and okay, so my problem with respectability politics isn't when I do it, it's when I tell other people to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is fine for someone to act respectably in and of themselves and be like, yeah, take me more seriously because I am respectable and whatever. But when they tell other people that's how you have to behave, you have to be respectable, you have to fit into I think that is not okay. Because there are people we do need people who don't live by respectability politics. We need people who out there are pushing the envelope of what is okay for normal, you know. I
Mm-hmm.
want to be careful with that because there's also normalization of not okay things that's going on out there. But you do see where I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So how far did we make it in this video?
We are 5
5
minutes
minutes.
and 53 seconds in. Less than a third. And I really did sit attentively through that very first section.
I know you did.
And
We
it
all
brought
did.
up a valuable question. And
Yes, it
we
did.
have just been going off ever since.
I mean, that's the point of doing this.
It is. It is. So do we call it in here and come
As it is
back next week?
1:20.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we call it here and come back next week. I mean, we also covered current local events.
We
As it,
did.
yeah,
We did. We did not cover the voice actor strike,
no, we did not.
but that's as far as I know, that's still going on. Um. Yeah. Yep. All right. I think we've done. I think we're gonna call it in here. Politic, shrewd or prudent in practical manners, tactful, diplomatic. Thank you, Chaotic Techno Wizard, for that vocabulary word of the day. I do believe it describes how you choose to, most of the time, interact with the world. You seem to be very politic most of the time. When they stopped using the dictionary as a reference and started using it. When did our politicians stop being politic? Okay. All right, viewers, let me back up and try this again. Chaotic Techno Wizard, when did our politicians stop being politic? Using the word politic in the by the meaning of shrewd or prudent in practical matters, tactful or diplomatic. And Kat replied, when they stopped using the dictionary as a reference and started using it as a step stool. Way to call them little people. Little-minded, petty, little people.
Hey,
Anything to get them out of their moral low ground.
yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us, guys. Thank you, Peanut Gallery. Thank you, Kat.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, audience at home. Thank you, Just Me Crystal. Was there anybody else in chat?
I do not
No.
believe so, no.
No, seems like it's been a pretty empty day.
Someone who briefly jumped in on the Discord but didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Oh,
I missed seeing who that was.
that's what that sound was. Interesting. Well, thank you everybody for being here. We will be raiding out, so stick around for that. And now is the time on the show when I say, as they say around here, 2 up, 2 down, VA, double deuces. We're out, y'all.
descends through the audio frequency spectrum with time, whereas a whistler is more coherent.
In other words, the whistler is a rarefied and specialized case of the switch.
So we find some which...
What is the difference, the distinction between the switch and the whistler?
Well, a switch descends through the audio frequency spectrum with time. Whistler is more coherent.
In other words, the whistler is a rarefied and specialized case of the switch.
So we find some which start out like a swish and end up like a whistler, and we call these swishlers.
They're audio frequencies, but they're not audible like you have radio ears.
That's correct. They're audio frequency radio waves.
We talked about whistlers a lot now. Perhaps we should just devote no more than a minute or two to the tweak.
The tweak is rather well understood.
The tweak. 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 The tweak.
The tweak is rather well understood and demonstrates that these are these tweaks, but that the rate of decline of the tone is so fast that they're not, and demonstrates that these are these tweaks, but that the rate of decline of the tone is so fast that they're not recognizable as well-developed tweaks until you slow them down.
A mature tweak is one that's many miles away.
It is a crash and demonstrate that these are these tweaks, but that the rate of decline of the tone is so fast that they're not recognizable as well-developed tweaks until you slow them down.
A mature tweak is one that's many miles away.
It is a crash and demonstrate that these are these tweaks, but that the rate of decline of the tone is so fast that they're not
A mature tweak is one that's many miles away.
It is a crash or a bump.
And it's many miles away.
It is a crash or a bump.
A tweak is one that's many miles away.
It is a crash.
A mature tweak is one that's many miles away.
It is a crash or a bump, and it's far enough away.
A mature tweak is one that's many miles away.
It is a crash or a bump, and it's far enough away.
A mature tweak is one that's many miles away.
It is a crash or a bump, and it's far enough away.
A mature tweak is one that's many miles away.
It is a crash or a bump, and it's far enough away.
A mature tweak is one that's many miles. A mature tweak is one that's many. A mature tweak.